So in this video I'm going to quickly talk about the difference between Act Utilitarianism as proposed by Jeremy Bentham and Rule Utilitarianism as proposed by John Stuart Mill. Now, what Act Utilitarianism essentially is simply following the general happiness principle, which is the greatest good for the greatest number. And the way we determine this is we use something called a philosophic calculator, calculus, and this consists of 7 criteria, which includes fecundity, remoteness, duration, intensity, extent, purity, and how certain is it that the pleasure is going to happen. So those are the 7 criteria that is in the philosophic calculus. Now, the main thing with Bentham's theory is you are faced with a dilemma, you use this calculus, you work out what produces the greatest good for the greatest number, and you use it. And the reason why you do this is because happiness is the supreme supreme end, not being, and it's a moral good. It's the main thing, it's the main point of life is happiness. Now, the difference with John Stuart Mill's thing is he came along and he said no. He said justice is the main thing, and what about selfless organizations like CAFOID? They don't use these 7 criteria and thing because they don't look at what's in for their happiness or their pleasure. And so you can't just, and there's many different types of pleasure, so to simply say pleasure is not working. So what Mill's theory suggests is that you first distinguish between 2 types of pleasures. So just like Jeremy Bentham distinguishes between pleasure and pain, what Mill says is actually there's a further split in the type of pleasure. You have higher pleasures and you have lower pleasures. Higher pleasures are those of the mind, so like intellectual pursuits, emotions, imagination, whereas lower pleasures are all to do with animal needs, so eating, drinking, reproducing, things like that. They're all animal needs. And he said we will always put higher pleasures over lower pleasures. And he said because if you pick a lower pleasure over a higher pleasure, you have the infirmity of a mind, so it's not, you would never do that. And he gives a quote because what he says is that it's better to be a dissatisfied Socrates than a satisfied pig, meaning that you would always want to go for the higher pleasures even if it doesn't satisfy you, because he says the more your mental faculty, the harder it is to be satisfied. So it's better to be dissatisfied through higher pleasures than satisfied through lower pleasures, because that's not what life is about. And so from this he said that we can look at situations and our experience will formulate rules. So our experience will tell us that on average if you kill someone, basically it does not result in higher or actually even a lower pleasure for not the greatest good for the greatest number, either through higher pleasures or lower pleasures. It doesn't result in it. So we have a generalized rule: you should not kill. And so in moral situations, rather than sitting there using the calculator, you know the rule and you won't kill someone. So that's just the difference. One, when you're faced with a situation, you'll follow rules, and these rules are formulated through the same philosophic calculus, except you would follow the high pleasures, and the other one you would just use the calculus. So that's the difference. Thank you for watching. Please visit my blog.